guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Misplaced Garage. Today I'm going to be getting the cooling system dialed in and hopefully filled up with some coolant so that I can test for leaks and whatnot like that. There shouldn't be any leaks, but you never know. I also will be continuing down the line of the exhaust. I don't have the catalytic converter yet, but I got a couple more parts that I need to install. So that is on the list, along with some front brakes, maybe if I get to it. I have a full front brake kit for the car. That'll be all new parts other than obviously like calipers and stuff like that. But the front brakes need it pretty bad. These are, I don't know how old. So front brakes for sure getting done, along with new sway bar end links, because one of them is actually broken and that is no good for this car. Especially since I was complaining about the ride height in the back. This car gets affected ride height whether the front is correct or not, because the whole car leans to that side, and I think it's because that broken front sway bar end link is letting it sit down farther, so that picks up this back corner. But anyways, let's get to filling up the cooling system. Just like that, the radiator is mounted back up. It's pretty sturdy. There is some flex in it, so which is what is necessary for a radiator. So if the frame ever like tweaks or something, or you go over a bump that's kind of funny, it's not completely rigid to the frame, so it will be able to flex in a way that allows it to not just snap in half kind of thing. Alrighty, well now I've got the coolant system pretty much complete. I put a little nub on this because I don't want to use this radiator cap. I think I'm actually going to put a higher pressure one in here eventually, but we'll see how far this takes me. I want it to vent through this pipe obviously because it's the highest point. Now it's time to start filling it up. So I put about 1.5 gallons of coolant and distilled water in total, so half of both of those. Now I got the rest of this, which I should be able to fill up the rest of the system with, because the Miata cooling system, to my understanding, is a little bit over 1.5 gallons. I have a larger radiator, so it'll fit more coolant, so I should be pretty darn close. And then I'll have to start up the engine and purge all the air out of the system. That looks pretty close to being full. I'm gonna put a little bit in here so it can suck some out if it needs to. Now before I start up the car, because I have the garage all heated up and stuff, so I'll have to open the garage and pull the car out, so I'm not going to start it just yet. But I am going to replace the sway bar end links because one of them is snapped, so I'll get that replaced here real quick. This is the sway bar end link right here. And I have two here. One is left side and one is right side. I don't necessarily know what that means, but I'm guessing the left hand is from the driver's position, so this would be the left hand and the one over on the other side would be the right hand. That's kind of what I'm going with. We will see. I believe one is threaded in reverse, so we'll have to figure out which one that is. But I'll take it off right now and put the new one on. My suspicions were correct, and they do have different angles. This one's angled at the opposite of this one basically, because it's one side of the car versus the other side, so this looks like to be the correct one. This was a pain to get off because this the inside of the stud was spinning in here, so it wasn't grabbing the threads, and the threads weren't, they were grabbing, but the the stud was spinning, so I had to get a wrench on there and free it basically. But this should fix up some of the slop that this car had, because this one moves super easily versus the new one. And so this is the exact reason why I'm replacing these. This one's actually completely sheared off, and the sleeve is stuck on down there. So this part is still on the sway bar. Really doing it? Well, that's definitely not how that one should look. It should look closer to that. That's funny. What an interesting way for this to fail. And now I think I'm gonna permanently mount this this piece on there. So I'm gonna cut out the shape, make it a little closer to what it needs to be, and then I'll be able to bolt it onto the exhaust forever. Well, not forever, obviously it's removable, but I don't intend on taking it off again unless I have to. Took a bunch of material off. It's a little bit closer to the shape. I'm not gonna go any more just because it'll help out with the gasket not having the edges so small in comparison to the gasket. And I also picked up 3 new stainless steel bolts and nuts with lock washers so that this thing will never fall off. Alrighty, got this pipe on there, put the gasket in there, tighten the bolts all the way down, and it seems to be extremely solid, and I don't think it's going anywhere, so I'm happy with that. Eventually I will exhaust wrap it, maybe in this video, probably in the next video, because I'm still waiting on the catalytic converter. I'm just getting some of this piping on here so that when I start it, it's not just sending fumes inside in there and a bunch of oil and stuff. Alrighty guys, well I got everything that I needed to do before I start the car up. Gonna fill it with a little more coolant because it did burp down and go in the rest of the engine. And then I will push the car outside and start it up. I did get the temperature gauge all wired in, so that should function properly. I know I don't have fans on it, so it will overheat after some time of just sitting here, but it should slowly rise to temperature, which I think is what this car needs. I think it needs to kind of burn out some of that carbon buildup and whatnot. Here we go. Anyways guys, I'm gonna leave the video there. I'm pretty stoked. I was able to run the car for 10 to 15 minutes. The temperature gauge went up a little bit. It didn't go very high because I think the car really needs to be ran and the system completely burped out, but the temperature gauge does work, so I'm pretty happy on that. Hopefully I'll get my catalytic converter here soon, and drive shaft I should be ordering relatively soon. I don't know how fast I'll get that ordered because I gotta take some very specific measurements and then they gotta make it, so that'll take a while. But anyways, guys, if you liked the video, you liked Triumph, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one.